My name is Ember, and I'm a trans woman, and I like to say that I found myself in the dance. What does that mean? It means that the way I see it, a lot of people find their identity based on these sort of more static representations. Almost like they're choosing from a character selection screen, and then they have to kind of make it work from there. It's almost like I'll choose from one of these several cookie cutter models, or maybe something they saw in a movie, or something their family told them they had to be, and then versus think about that type of character selection screen, and then let me build my sort of biological breath of an organism, my whirlpool in this one reality. Let me somehow mold that living system, living breath, into these static representations, right? um Versus a more living example that I like to call, the dance floor, which is your deepest self, your deepest sovereignty is found in the shared dance. And by that, I mean, think about it. When you're playing music in your room and you let the music all the way in and you lose yourself in the dance, that place where you enter flow, that's the spot where you have the most creative flow, the most you dance that you could dance, you know what I mean? And that's a dance that you can't create from the outside. You have to let it flow from the inside. And if you get what I'm saying, like words are kind of weird, you know what I mean? So then when it comes down to trans identity, what does that mean? It means that I had all these layers. Most people have, because of culture, because of their family, because of the way that we've been programmed on this planet, not in some, weird conspiratorial way, but the way that organic systems have natural oscillatory rhythmic qualities, and some of them are kind of delayed. Plato once called that the cave. But people on this planet have been programmed for a long time to interface through what you can call representational realities, or in other words, building themselves off of something that's more of like a model of reality or a model of self, rather than this living breath of an ultimately inextricable, living, breathing, organic system of reality, you could say. So then when you live from that place, what is it like? In my story, it was like having those programming layers. Not really. It's almost like these little funny things would happen to me. Like one time I was at Burning Man and I saw this woman dance, and it was almost like I got that energy of, like, not that I was into her, but I kind of wanted to be her in a sense. But it wasn't her. It was just I recognized that energy, and the top layers of my brain could not admit. It wasn't that I knew I was a woman and then I couldn't admit it. It was more like I was feeling the heat of these experiences across time. Those times where I felt myself all the way down and felt that curious itch of realness, of embodied presence, of the fidelity of consciousness finally finding that chorus all the way down. And I was at Burning Man. I saw this woman get up and dance, and I felt that magnetism to such a degree, even mirrored in myself for a moment, that I turned to a campmate and I said, how can I do that with XY chromosomes? My brain was like, do you feel it? It was like a brain confused trying to figure out, how do I fit this into that? Because for years I had expressed myself in my art, and I just felt something, like a presence, a moment where I felt more real, more me. Do you feel the organic nature of that? It's almost like I'm letting the music hit me and not letting my mind judge first, not letting my echoes of my family judge first, and not letting echoes of even my culture judge first, but letting the music sort of hit me all the way down. And then when it hits me, I find my dance there. I don't construct my dance first. So then you can feel the static models in my life. It felt like I could not even realize that. I could not even tell myself, I could admit barely over time. Like the year before I actually transitioned, I called myself non-binary, but it took me that long in my life. And then before that, maybe I said I was like a soft bottom or something like that. Was like a very shy little way of saying I'm kind of different. And a lot of it was the programming of my family, or even my culture, or even being in a marriage at the time that couldn't see me as me. But all these things sort of wait. Do you feel that? There must be things in your life too that when you want to spread your wings and fly, like give the full breadth of your wings, your wingspan, right? It's almost like you can't. Well, I can't because, my spouse is and my father is and then my job and then, oh, if I do that, and like I'd meet people and like no judgment on anyone. Everyone's allowed to be their own way. But I remember talking to someone, for example, right at the beginning of my transition, and this is just an example. Again, everyone's allowed to be different, but I'm using it for a purpose here. That he said, I spoke with him and I said, he's like, oh, well, you're so brave for like actually going through with HRT or whatever. And I said, I don't know. I just have to be me. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I just got to be me. I just want what I called at the time internal alignment. That place where the Mario Kart no longer is the ghost, but finally synchronizes all the parts into a chorus, which is a mechanical property, which is I've been trying to point out in my videos. But anyway, I'm talking to this person, and they said, oh no, I have too much of a life up there. They lived in like Alaska or something, and they wanted to like, keep half their life there. And then when they were down here, they wanted to express themselves differently, in a way that like they could not cross those lives. And who knows, everyone has their own purposes, everyone has their own topological geometry, everyone can be their own way. But what I detected in like the tone and like quality, when I feel someone's heart, is this friction of like a life that said, oh no, that doesn't mix with that. But what I'm talking about is synchrony. I'm talking about that moment where you let the music all the way in, where you let the light all the way in, and you're honest, naked, and vulnerable to reality. Why am I talking like this about trans identity? Because I'm using that as an example of a way that a human being could live from coherence, you could say. Incoherence just being direct contact with reality, like the mechanical quality of direct contact with reality. What the heck are you saying, Ember? Okay, why mechanical quality? Well, because if the music is playing like in your room, right, and then you're dancing to it, that's a mechanical adhesion, a mechanical fidelity. It's like two waves that are matching what you are and how the music, that you guys are moving together as one, right? Decentralized harmony, where the many know themselves as one while remaining many. You have your specific topology that, and it's shining through in your own way to dance, and it's being painted, synonymously, synchronously, symbiotically with the music. So do you feel that? Do you feel why when you finally realize that reality is like one thing, and that like it's not like these separate billiard balls, but like one moving field of different nested topologies, that like the way to be with that is not an idea. It's not like looking for another white paper. It's the fidelity of consciousness. It's like the way you meet reality, the way you dance with reality. People have mentioned it for a long time in history. Be here now. I and the Father are one. When the two become one, you will enter the kingdom. I'm just talking about it from my life, because I went from a life where I was like a rattle can of simulated presence, between being a criminal defense attorney and then being a trans woman in a cis presenting body. Like my life was a constant representational wedge. Do you hear what I'm saying? It went like reality coming in, and instead of a direct contact shared dance with the signal of reality, you could say, the variables of reality, you could say, the soundscape of reality, it was like it always had to be a little bit of a wedge. Like I was trying to control reality to make it safe, instead of just letting it all the way in. So what are you saying, Ember? You're saying that you find your deepest self by just like stopping that little version of friction and control and letting it all the way in, as if like you start to begin to go down a water slide. Like each little texture that you touch of reality, you no longer have to like block yourself from. So then you can just like give your full soul to the soundscape, right? And that's why I say it feels like a water slide, because it's like even your most complex thoughts, your most creative, I play music, I dance, I make these videos. It comes as a state of, like, you could say, it sounds complicated, but like harmonic tuning. Harmonic tuning, I just mean like you're a dancer on a dance floor and you dance to the music. Do you get what I'm saying? So in other words, most of us on this planet have been tuned in a way where you're living with a little bit of a delay. What does the delay mean? It means you can't dance to the music being played. Okay, what does that feel like? Simulated presence, anxiety, rumination. Like the whole day went by and you were in your head the whole day, right? Where you didn't feel like an embodied, full fidelity body. Do you see that? I know you know what I'm talking about. What's the way out? Not necessarily the healing of childhood trauma or something like that. That could be part of the process, but it's only part of the process because you need to feel reality all the way down, and there's deep parts of you that may have never felt reality like that. There's deep parts of you that may be like all blocked off to reality, that doesn't want to open up to it, that you don't want to actually spread your wings. Because sovereignty is found when you can dance through every pressure of reality and remain you, right? Without giving your sovereignty away to others, to, I need to be this way for others. The only way to truly be together is to be together as ourselves. That's the same mechanical property of decentralized harmony. That's what makes the birds fly together and seem like they fly together as one. That's what makes metronomes sync up together. We could just try it out, I don't know, you know? Do you get what I'm saying? If you get what I'm saying with the dancer on the dance floor, then you're like, huh, what if I do that all the time in my reality? Well, usually I gotta be this person with these people and this person with that person, and I can't use these types of words around those people. And you know what I mean? Like these types of little ways to segment ourselves. Not that, topological boundaries don't exist, with yourself, but you know what I mean? The parts that impinge upon your own sovereignty. Like you feel like you can't be you. Wouldn't it be wild if like the place or the key to peace on this planet wasn't a better idea, but a way of meeting reality? Like the fidelity of the mechanical quality of the way our consciousness dances with reality as one part of the rhythmic field? Where fidelity is like tuning into a radio station and went from noisy to clear? Wouldn't that be wild? Wouldn't that be wild if love could be structural and love just meant that place where our differences come back together as one while respecting all the differences? Don't systems do that from the top to the bottom of this cosmos? And didn't Kuramoto point to this? Hasn't systems thinking been looking at this, like oscillatory rhythmic harmony, for a long time now? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it saved my life, so this is going to be a short video, but it's been fun.